Okay, so today is our first STAAR review day. So the first thing we're going to talk about is domain and range, since this is something we learned back in like August when everybody was still online. So we need to make sure we actually like understand what this is talking about. So whenever I see domain on the STAAR test, I know domain means the X values. Okay. So if I see any answer choices that don't have an X in it, I'm going to cross them out. Now we know that when we write the domain, we're supposed to be saying what X values is the graph between. So that means the number on this side is supposed to be the number from the left side of the graph, and the number over here is coming from the right side of the graph. Okay. For range we know means the Y numbers, or it could say f of x or g of x or something like that, because that also means Y. And you would write range the same way with the Y in the middle, but the numbers are coming from the bottom and the top of the graph because that's where the Y numbers are, okay? So let's look at how we would answer some questions. So on the STAAR test, it could say the graph of part of a linear function f is shown on the grid, which inequality best represents the domain of the part shown. So first of all, as soon as I see the word domain, I'm going to circle it. I'm going to put X. I'm going to go to my answer choice. I'm going to cross off the ones that do not say X. So this says X, so that one's good. This says f of x, which we know that really means a y, so I'm crossing this out. I'm not even looking at it because it's not the right letter. Like, we want to cross out the immediately wrong answers. Choice B over here also has an f of x. That's not what we want for domain. Now this has an x. Okay, great. And even better, these already have the same numbers for the left. Now we know, looking at this graph, we know this is the left side and this is the right side. And we know we would be picking the numbers on the x-axis because we're talking about the x numbers. So like down there, oh, that's the 8 and that's -4. The problem is we need to know like what symbols we're supposed to use. Now at the beginning of the year, we talked about if it's an open circle, that means just less than. A closed circle, so a filled in circle, gets an extra line. And if it's an arrow, you would cross out that side. So this over here, I know I kind of like drew on it. Let me erase. But that is an open circle right there. So I'm even going to write open. So that means there should be no extra line underneath. This dot over here is closed. So that means it's going to be with an extra line. This is open, no extra line. So I'm looking, I want no extra line, extra line. This one has an extra line, it's not supposed to. So that means this is supposed to be the right answer, okay? That's an easy way to check. Make sure they're using the right symbols. Make sure it's the right letter in the middle. That's an easy way to start crossing off answer choices, okay? In this one, it says, what are the domain and range of, and then they give us an equation. So first of all, I'm still gonna cross off if they don't have the right thing for domain. So domain is supposed to say X, range is supposed to say Y, or f of x, slash in this case is going to say g of x because it said g, okay? So F said domain was all real numbers. Now it could say all real numbers, so I'm not crossing that off. Range was g of x, that's good. G, domain was x, that's good. Range, g of x, that's good. H said domain is all real numbers, that's possible. Range said X. We know that is not possible. Range is supposed to say Y. So I cross off H. It's not like, it cannot say X for range. In choice J, domain says G of X, which is not correct. It's supposed to say X, or it could say all real numbers. So I'm crossing this off also. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna type this in the calculator. Okay, anytime they give you an equation with no like picture, if there's no graph, then we gotta type this in Desmos. Type in Desmos. So type in g of x equals 1/4 parentheses x minus 17 squared plus 61 or minus 61, plus 61. Okay, so I only kind of see a line, so I'm going to zoom out until I actually see something. Okay, this is a U-shaped graph. Well, technically, it's a rainbow-shaped graph. We know that over here is arrows, arrow, arrow. So if we're talking about the domain, because if I look at the range answers, they both say the same thing. So that's not very helpful. So I need to focus on the domain because that is what is different. So this one says it's only x less than or equal to 17, and this says all real numbers. So I know, looking at the left, that's an arrow, okay? Now I do technically know, we talked about, oh, if it's the domain of this, we know is always something, but let's do it like for real. So we said, oh, from the left, that's an arrow. So we would cross this out because it continues on forever. There is no end for what happens on the left. It goes on and on and on. On the right, this side continues on and on and on. That's an arrow also. So we would cross this side out also. Well, if you cross off both sides, that means the answer is all real numbers. All real numbers. So that means the answer was F. Okay. Let's look at the last one. Which inequality best represents the range of the part shown? So they set up here, a part of an exponential function is graphed. Great. Range. Does range mean X or Y? Well, it means Y slash f of X. It could say either of those things. So I'm going to cross off the ones that do not say that. Okay, well, this said X. That's not right because we want range. This said Y. That's in. This said X. Can't be that. This said Y. That's good. Okay, well, now we just got to figure out which number is it. Is it 4.5 or is it -2? So we're looking at the numbers on the Y. We know it's supposed to be coming from the number on the bottom of the graph. Well, what is the Y number at the bottom of the graph right here? Well, it's in between 4 and 5, which obviously is not -2. So we're going to cross this one out. It's got to be 4.5. 4.5 is in the middle of 4 and 5. So that's our answer, okay? Even if you're only eliminating 2 answer choices because it said X, and then you have to guess, like guessing out of 2 options is better than guessing out of 4 options. So make sure we are eliminating the for sure wrong answers, which would be X. Or like if it's a domain, we would cross out the Y's, okay? So you're going to go ahead and start on the formative and like use these strategies, cross off the wrong ones.